Alright guys, just before we get started, I want to take a second to tell you about a game I've been playing on my iPhone. You can get it on iPhone, you can get it on Android, all the tablets and what have you. It is called the Muscle Hustle app. They are good friends of the show, and they were hooking us up with codes to sort of help you guys get ahead if you were to decide to play the game. But unfortunately, in the latest software updates with iTunes and what have you, the codes aren't working. So we're trying to get that fixed. But in the meantime, if you click the link in the show notes and download the Muscle Hustle, it's a fantastic game. It's you collect wrestlers and train your wrestlers up, all with unique individual gear and everything to raise them through the ranks from jobber to superstar to legend. You go around collecting the titles, and you can even play with your friends. So unfortunately, no leg up to offer you, but if you hit the link in the show notes, it will let them know that we sent you, and it'll help us out, it helps them out, and it helps you out because it's a really fun game to play. So check out the Muscle Hustle app on iOS, Android, and all your mobile devices. The link, of course, is in the show notes.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening.
Hold one, Andre!
You're not good at this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list.
Oh my God!
Sorry, no speak English.
Tell me. Goodbye and good night. Hold two, on bar.
It's still real to me, damn it!
Tell me.
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
Hold three, Tomas covers, three-handle family Gradunzo.
Mamma mia!
And now, Unchained.media presents the B Plus Podcast with your host, Greg Unchained.
It's me, Austin! It was me all along, Austin!
Number four, armbar.
I will never retire!
I still got 200 more. I got 200 more holes to list.
Alright, ladies, gents, and non-binary friends, welcome to another B Plus Podcast. I'm your host, Greg Unchained. Today is Friday. You know what that means. It's Aussie Grapps Day, our favourite day here at the B Plus Podcast, where we sit down and we take a look at everything happening in the world of Australian professional wrestling. I also like to sit down and talk to an Australian grappler or grappler adjacent person. This week, I caught up with Vinnie Vain, a AWE superstar from Sydney who has been branching out lately, and I like it when wrestlers leave their sort of comfort zone, leave their home territory and sort of branch out and reach out to other promotions, even in their local area, and start taking new bookings. So decided to reach out and have a chat with Vinnie Vain about his career so far, and it was an interesting one, so stick around for that. And then, of course, I will hit you with everything that is going to happen this weekend in Australian wrestling. But first, let's take a look at this week in Aussie Grapps news. Starting off, as I like to do, with international news that has an Australian flavour, What Culture this week listed the Australian independent wrestling scene as number 4 in the 10 best kept secrets in wrestling list that they did. And that was a list that was, of course, inspired by wrestling's best kept secret, Buddy Murphy, who is also one of ours. He came from our independent wrestling scene when he was known as Matt Silver back in the day in Melbourne Championship Wrestling. So top 10 best kept secrets in wrestling, and the Australian indies were featured as number 4. I will link the video in the show notes. It's definitely worth checking out. There's lots of clips there of Melbourne City Wrestling and PWA in particular. Those are the two that really get the shout out. But any shout out that they're going to give is good for us, because it's going to get more eyes on our product here. Hopefully people search up Australian wrestling, Aussie Grapps, and they find us, and then they can get the real skinny on all of the Aussie wrestlers that are doing really, really good work, not just in PWA and MCW, but all around this great country of ours. Guys like Jay Sorbet, who sort of flies under the radar a lot. He's a regular at Wrestling Go, and he is heading over to Chikara with Ricky South. Ricky South, of course, we talked about a few weeks ago, was announced for the Young Lions Cup, taking place March 16th in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I think that's the same. Man, I don't know. I should probably have that in my notes, but I feel like I just from my head, from listening to it all the time, it's Pennsylvania, right? I'm sure it's in Pennsylvania. So they're heading over there. Jay Sorbet will be joining Ricky South. It was announced this week that Jay Sorbet is taking part in the Young Lions Cup. Best of luck to both fellas. I will be letting you know what goes down because I have a Chikaratopia subscription and I will be watching it live. If you want to watch it live, chikaratopia.com is the place to go. Also, when it comes to Aussies wrestling overseas, Shazza McKenzie heading to America. We've talked about it a few times. We talked to Shazza about it. And we talked to Unsocial Jordan about it too, a few weeks ago. If you go back in the archives, you'll find those interviews. And yeah, they're heading over to America, and Shazza McKenzie has released this week a sort of a video resume. It's like a highlight reel, and people will often put up a highlight reel and be like, hey, I'm going to be in this place for this time, and if anyone wants to book me. Shazza took a new take on it, and she did like basically a video resume. It was put together by the same people who do the PWA videos. Party Boy Jax, I think, is involved in that, so he's amazing at what he does. These hype packages and stuff that he's done for Matty Wahlberg, Ricky South, and the list goes on. But this Shazza McKenzie one is really good. So basically it's her telling her story of, 10 years in wrestling to find out that she was hardcore, to find out who she was. And now that she knows who she is, she's taking that gamble. She quit her job, right? She quit her full-time job, her regular 9-to-5 everyday job, so that she can chase this thing full-time and try to become a full-time professional wrestler. And hats off to her. It's brilliant. It's amazing. And this video is a fantastic way to go about getting your name out there, because it just looks like a hype video. It just looks like a hype video, like WWE, if they were to book Shazza McKenzie for their Mae Young Classic, which I don't know why they haven't yet, but if they book her for the next Mae Young Classic, they could literally just take this video. They don't need to make their own. This video is good enough to air as part of one of those Mae Young Classic hype packages. So, amazing video. Definitely check it out if you can. It's on her Twitter, it's on her Facebook and everywhere. I will link it in the show notes if I can. Looking locally at big announcements, a couple of really big announcements that hit my radar this week. Battle Championship Wrestling are doing another Lucha Down Underground. Now, I didn't watch Battle Championship Wrestling on telly this week because unfortunately I've been behind on all my work, so I've been sort of trying to catch up. But Battle Championship Wrestling are airing, of course, on Channel 31 every Tuesday and Thursday. I won't be able to watch the encore presentation tonight either because I will be at World Series Wrestling. Last night, time travel. Podcasts are weird. Anyway, Battle Championship Wrestling have announced Lucha Down Underground 2. The tour is returning. Talent's not yet fully announced, but we do know that PJ Black is coming. He's kind of the headliner. That's happening April 26, 27, and 28 in Melbourne, Adelaide, and Sydney, respectively. So definitely get out and get your tickets for those ones. Battle Championship Wrestling have some good... we've talked about it before. There's some questionable things around some of the booking. There's also been allegations thrown at all sorts of things that they're unethical. They're advertising practices, whatever. I see a company trying to get better, and so... and all I know is I want guys to have places to work, so Battle Championship Wrestling are booking good wrestlers. I will support them until such time as, I see something really egregious, which I have not. Battle Championship Wrestling doing good work. Lucha Down Underground 2... that tour was a big success last year. Of course, the big question was, will Johnny Mundo come? There was a video released. Johnny Mundo saying that unfortunately they have a live pay-per-view that weekend. Himself and Taya will not be able to make it, but they will be coming back in June. So I'm not sure if we're getting another Lucha Down Underground in June, or if it's going to be some sort of Impact BCW crossover, because we know that BCW have had some Impact stars before. Of course, they had Robbie E quite recently. BCW like to do these partnerships. They did one with a bunch of ECW guys. So who knows what this Johnny Mundo tour is going to be in June. But definitely looking forward to seeing Johnny Mundo come out for Battle Championship Wrestling. Also in announcements this week, and this one's... I'm always going to be biased with Adelaide because, I'm in Adelaide and I love it when we get good names coming down here. Robbie Eagles vs. Jake Lindo has been announced for Australian Wrestling Revolution on March 22. The show is called Limitless. I did not write down exactly where it is, but I know it's near me. It's in the north of Adelaide. That's where AWR run their shows. Slade Mercer and Rocky Monero is also going to feature on that show. So Australian Wrestling Revolution are kind of a new company. I have not yet been to one of their shows, but having Slade Mercer out here, I've said it before, having Slade Mercer out here, now bringing down Robbie Eagles, you're going to get me to go to this show. Jake Lindo as well, of course, one of the most underrated guys in Melbourne. So hopefully, as long as, if everything goes according to plan, I'll be at the March 22 show. I definitely want to be. It's looking like a good show. And that's kind of the biggest announcements that I came across this week. I do want to cover some things that you can watch this week in Aussie Grapps, because there have been a lot of releases this week. EPW, Explosive Pro Wrestling out of Perth. I didn't even know this show was going to be going up on Vimeo. I'm so happy that it did. I really enjoyed it. The EPW School Showcase Back to School is up now on Vimeo if you are a Vimeo subscriber for EPW, which you should be. It's only, I think, $7 or $8, and you get every EPW show as they air. They film it, it goes up about a week later or so. So this EPW School Showcase, I didn't even know it was going up. It was a bonus. I watched it, I enjoyed it. Stella Nix is a real standout. Oh man, Joel Hager. There's a couple of guys on there that have a bright future that I'm definitely keeping an eye on. Also SPW over... Also, SPW, I always get confused when I say SPW. Southern Pro Wrestling in New Zealand, not Singapore Pro Wrestling. So, Southern Pro Wrestling over in New Zealand, Fight for Gold is available. I'm catching up. I've just finished watching all the fight nights, and Fight for Gold is my next show that I'm going to watch. So that's up on the SPW On Demand, which, of course, you can get on your iOS. You can get it on your Android. It's all over the place. Melbourne City Wrestling on their Vimeo posted Glow in Real Life 3, Girl 3, featuring the Melbourne City Wrestling debut of Candy Lee, Steph DeLander versus Indy Hartwell. There was some really good stuff on this. It was a really well-booked show, top to bottom. Every single thing that happened in the show had a purpose. It was amazing. I really enjoyed it. And Wrestling Go uploaded You Go Girl on YouTube completely free. So there's a lot of shows that you can watch this week. That Wrestling Go You Go Girl show was fantastic. Apparently, I watched it with the sound off the first time because I was recording at the time of watching, and I really enjoyed watching it. I ended up talking about it on a New Japan podcast because, that's what I do. It's kind of my gimmick. Anyway, it was a really good show. I didn't notice the sound issues because, of course, I was watching it on mute. I went back to rewatch some bits later that night, and the sound issues were very glaring. The show was taken down, and Jimmy is Pro Wrestling, who did the filming and the editing and everything for that show, fixed the issue. He had an issue in his software when he bounced it down, and so he fixed that issue and re-uploaded it now where it has full proper sound. I've checked it myself. The sound seems fine all the way through, so definitely get around Wrestling Go You Go Girl. There is no reason not to be watching free Aussie wrestling, especially when it features the kind of talent that you see on this show. Jessica Troy and Kellyanne had a Match of the Year contender, early contender for Match of the Year in my books. Amazing show. They tore the house down in that match, and that was not all. There were amazing matches on this show, definitely worth checking out. Some more stuff to watch this week, though. Gino Gambino posted a video of himself challenging Cody to a match, to something. He's challenging Cody. He's laying out the gauntlet for Cody. He's like, Cody, what have you got to gamble, brother? Come down. Come meet me in Melbourne at World Series Wrestling. So this is just adding fuel to the fire. Conspiracy Greg putting the conspiracy hat on from, it's right there under my corkboard with all the pins and the lines and the strings. Conspiracy Greg's been saying it for weeks. Cody and or the Young Bucks and or Kenny Omega will be here for this World Series Wrestling tour because I can just feel it. I can just feel it in my bones. I'm going to take my pop vinyls just in case all 4 of them show up. Get them signed. That'd be amazing. So yeah, I can feel it in my bones. All right. Something's going to happen at one of these shows. I feel like if it happens at only one of the shows, the rest of the shows are kind of getting robbed, but it is what it is. But I feel like they're going to be here for at least part of the tour, and they're going to, make their presence felt. And this Gambino challenging Cody, that only throws fuel onto the fire. I will link that video, of course, in the show notes. Another really good angle to watch this week was a Rat Daddy video. Rat Daddy's videos that go up are amazing. They have like a real indie film aesthetic to them. I quite enjoy. And this one was a birthday party. So Rat Daddy was having a birthday party, and it was your classic Australian kids' birthday party. You had fairy bread out, you had a game of pass the parcel, pin the tail on the rat, I guess they were playing. And the pass the parcel was hilarious because they'd open the parcel and there was just cheese. And everyone was like, oh, we're going to get, another slice of cheese. And then Corn Dog opens it up and there's sauce because Corn Dog's bringing the sauce. It was fantastic. I can't express to you how much I love the weirdness that is Rat Daddy, the weirdness that is Corn Dog, all of it. It was really good. It was really good. And then AJ Istria ultimately shows up and, he calls them all losers and, he gloats about the fact that he's not defending his title against Tommy Knight because it was too hot in Adelaide and so the show got cancelled. And he's like, I'm off to Germany, suckers. And he walks away and he clicks his heels and off he goes. So AJ Istria he's still the champ, I guess. I thought that Tommy Knight was going to take the title off him, and now we're not getting another Rampage show until May, so we've got a couple of months to wait for another Rampage show, which is sad. It's sad for me as a fan, but it's good for my wallet. because every time I go to a Rampage show, I end up buying merch as well. So it's, it is what it is. Rampage have a bit of a break until May. I guess the champ will be back by then, so we'll be able to get that big championship rematch. Looking forward to it. Now, in terms of angles this week, I guess the biggest news in terms of angles from shows last weekend was probably All Action Wrestling over in Perth. Now, they have actually closed their doors. Anniversary 12 took place last weekend. It was the last All Action Wrestling show ever, as they now rebrand into Western Pro Wrestling, WPW. They ran an angle on the show. They'd been building to it for a while, with Tom Ledbetter defeating the Shark, taking over completely. It's his, and he said that if he took over, he was going to kill the Fed and build something new in its place. And once they said that, it was kind of a foregone conclusion. You're not going to say that and then not have it happen. So Tom Ledbetter picked up the win, removing Shark from All Action Wrestling, and it is now, sort of getting rid of the Shark. They're going to be sort of a new Shark and Chris Target are going to be sort of a new AAW Originals heel stable sort of thing, I think. And now it's Western Pro Wrestling, and they've announced their first show as Western Pro Wrestling, taking place on March 29th, and it's going to be an 18-plus show. Really cool idea. They obviously, Tom Ledbetter also owns Schwa, so having Schwa to do the family-friendly stuff, and Western Pro Wrestling, maybe taking on more of an adult-oriented bent. I think that's really good marketing. There's no need to split the audience. You can always have both. It's a fantastic thing, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the future holds for Western Pro Wrestling. Of course, AAW had a bit of baggage, and it had, there's been some stories about All Action Wrestling in the past. We don't need to go into it too much. That's for another podcast probably, and I'm sure we will at one point do a podcast about that kind of stuff. If you guys are interested, let me know. But yeah, there's, shedding that name, shedding some, you're going to shed some of the goodwill that you have with some of the audience members, but you're going to shed a lot of the bad will that you have with the industry. So it's a good thing. Western Pro Wrestling, very excited to see where it goes. Now, we all know that I like to be positive here on the B Plus podcast. B Plus, be positive. Thanks to Mr. Christmas for pointing that out to me. It's sort of a subconscious thing that just sort of manifested itself. Magic, brother, magic. It's all magic. B Plus, be positive. That's what we're all about here. We are all about the positivity. And so it pains me. It pains me to introduce what may eventually become some kind of a recurring segment, but we're going to talk about some Twitter dramas. I got two big Twitter dramas here. One, that kind of is happening and is ongoing, and, I want to address it. And then one that is just beyond the pale, disgusting, abhorrent, and needs to be called out. First off, Kevin Chiat, who has been a guest on this show, he's known as, he does work for Voices of Wrestling. He writes about Australian wrestling. I'm a fan of what he does in terms of his, having a look at shows and reviewing shows. I think it's nice that he's completely honest with his opinion. I don't agree with all of his opinions, obviously. I've had him on the show before, and I just want to make it clear, just because I have him on the show does not mean that I endorse his opinion. It just means that, he's someone who to talk EPW with. He's a big EPW fan, and I get him onto our EPW post shows. And so he's a friend of the show somewhat, and he has gotten in some hot water on Twitter this week after doing much like I do. I live tweet the shows as I watch them, and he was live tweeting the shows, and he called Beach Bum Buddha, Jackson Kelly, an MRA douche. And this has ignited a bit of a defense on Twitter of Jackson Kelly, because, people like Steph DeLanda are coming out, Indy Hartwell, Nikki Van Blair, saying he's always been nice to me. I don't see this at all. Various tweets. You can check the Twitter if you want the exact words and everything that they've said. But essentially, a lot of wrestling Twitter is coming to the defense of Jackson Kelly. Now, I've had Jackson Kelly on the show before. I've run into Jackson Kelly outside a gym in Melbourne, and when I was there for the Super Showdown show, he has always been a lovely dude to me. I'm a fan of his work as well. I'm a fan of his character. I think he's great at what he does. You guys know this. I'm a huge fan of Jackson Kelly. I talk about him all the time. So it goes without saying that I disagree with Kevin Chiat, but and I've said this to Kevin in personal messages, and I'll say it here for everyone. If you're gonna make accusations like that, expect people to come back at you, because here's the and I mean, look, Jackson Kelly himself has handled the thing like an absolute pro. He took just the bit about being called he ignored all the accusations about being an MRA, being sexist, all that stuff, and he just took the part about not being a good worker, about being like he was trained in WWE developmental in 2008, and he was like, I take that as a compliment, even though you're not intending it as a compliment. I think it's a compliment, personally, as well. I'd be in the same mindset as Jackson Kelly there. But yeah, it's been good to see a lot of wrestling Twitter sort of come to the defense of Jackson Kelly and sort of share positive stories and to call out, you know, because that's defamation, right? Like, I mean, calling someone sexist, racist, anti-gay, all of these sorts of things, if they aren't, that's defamation of character. That can actually affect people's bookings. That can affect people's careers outside of wrestling. Because you got to remember, Australian wrestling, these guys have 9-to-5 jobs. That kind of thing can be really damaging. And so, I mean, yeah, I just don't make accusations like that unless you're 100% sure, especially when it comes to a worker, because if you're basing this off social media posts or social media likes or social media retweets, I didn't even know you could check what other people liked. I had no idea you could even do that. I didn't know that was a thing people had the time to do. But if you're going to base it off people's social media presence, especially when it comes to workers, you got to realize social media is an aspect of their work. I say all the time, you can't trust anything a wrestler says. You can't trust anything a wrestler posts or likes. Because if he's on Twitter, he's in character, as far as I'm concerned. The Beach Bum Buddha and Jackson Kelly the Man are not necessarily the same person. I mean, of course they're not the same person. You know, I don't think Jackson Kelly walks around, you know, booting people in the head. That's not what he does. He's a character. And his Twitter is in character. And if he's liking things, retweeting things, if he's saying things that you find gross on Twitter, good. He's a heel. You're meant to find him gross. I imagine if he ever does a face turn, he'll wipe his Twitter clean and start again. I don't know. I think it's a bit crazy to judge a person based on their social media and then act as though, say something that is so out there that it can actually damage them. And I've said this stuff to Kevin himself personally, before the blow up, since the blow up, and I'm going to say it here so that everyone can benefit from this advice. I mean, it's a worker page. Don't take the social media as the real person, because it is not. We present what we choose to present on social media. And also, even if it is the person, just because you find something politically offensive does not mean everyone will. It's such a tricky thing, man. Like, just don't call someone something unless you're absolutely sure, unless he's pulled you to the side personally and gone, you know what, man, I love women. I think everyone should own one. Unless he's saying something like, you know, Blake Mitchell says that all the time, and that's part of his character as a work as well, I think. I don't even know. But that's the thing, right? See, Blake Mitchell, he says this stuff, and I'm like, I think he might be a sexist for shoot, but I don't know, man. I don't know how much I'm getting worked. And I'm always willing to admit that. As a fan of wrestling, and also Conspiracy Greg, putting my hat on, I never think that what I see is real. Reality is a work to me. So, I don't know, maybe I'm crazy, but yeah, just, but also as well, on the other side of things, I've seen that there has been, and I've been guilty too, like I tweeted at Kevin, and I think it was the Scorpio Corp who, you know, he sort of subtweeted me and was like, oh, you know, not everything has to be mentioned. And I'm like, if you believe in something, you put your name to it, first of all. You don't be anonymous. You put your name to it. And second of all, you will direct it at the person. Like, if you believe in something as a criticism of someone's work, I find you boring in the ring, and here's how you could be better, or I think that your online persona needs work because it comes across as though you are a shoot sexist. If that's something that you want to put out there in the universe, directly mention the person. If you have a criticism that you believe in, you have that criticism because you want them to get better. If you want them to get better, you should let them know. You directly mention them. Don't do this coward bullshit subtweeting. Man, that pisses me off. Anyway, moving on. The real Twitter drama of the week. The real outrage. And that's right. You're sitting there thinking, how can it get worse? How can it get worse than accusing a person of being a sexist and potentially making them lose their work? Well, Tar Lee this week has decided to go on Twitter and declare, and I quote, Nutella is disgusting. What? You fucking what? No. Okay. Look, I was there for the chicken nugget stuff, okay? Tali's my girl. I trained with Tali. We go way back. And I'm a big supporter of Tali's work. I enjoy everything she does. But this post, Nutella is disgusting, is disgusting. Nutella is the breakfast of champions. It's the lunch of champions. It's the dessert of champions. I don't eat Nutella for dinner, okay? I'm not gross. Breakfast, lunch, and dessert. Nutella is amazing. Tali is wrong. I'm calling her out on it. No, Tali. Keep your bad food opinions to yourself. That's the Twitter controversy this week. And now I'm going to talk to someone who's not afraid of controversy himself, Vinnie Vain, branching out from AWE to take bookings all across this great nation of ours. I'm going to sit down and have a talk to him, and then after the interview, of course, I will let you know what is happening this weekend near you.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hey guys, just a reminder, if you want to hear all of these wonderful B Plus podcast episodes completely ad-free, make sure you head over to Patreon or Podbean, where we are the featured podcast this week. You can subscribe for as little as $1 a month up to $10 a month, where anything you want to help us with, it really helps out. It's going to help us grow the site. It's going to help us redesign some things, and everything that we get through this and through the advertising as well is all going straight back into the podcast so that we can get Aussie Grapps out there for the rest of the world to hear about, for the rest of the world to see, so we can grow this mission of watch global, support local, and build indie wrestling. So if you want to be a part of that and get some really cool rewards like call-in shows, bonus episodes, ad-free like I mentioned, then head over to patreon.com/theb+ and subscribe today. Hey everyone, just want to take a second to tell you about one of our new sponsors, Outbreak Nutrition. Outbreak Nutrition are creating supplements for survival, sharper minds, quicker reflexes, all the energy you need to take your performance to the next level, whether that be on the field, in the gym, on the gaming field. That's right, they have specifically designed gaming supplements as well to help you focus on those late night sessions. They even sell coffee, you guys, at Outbreak Nutrition. You can get coffee pods, you can get coffee beans, you can get supplements for the bedroom as well if you want to enhance your performance there. These are performance enhancing supplements for every aspect of your life, specifically designed by gamers, for gamers, to stay fit and healthy in the gym, to stay sharp and focused on the game, and to dominate in all areas of life. So check out outbreaknutrition.com, and for being a listener of our podcast, they will give you 10% off your order when you enter the code B+. That is BPLUS at checkout. So make sure, if you want to stay on top of your game, if you want to take your performance to the next level, outbreaknutrition.com, enter the code B+ at checkout. My guest at this time, all the way from New South Wales, joining me by the magic of the internet, despite some technical issues, which, you know, it happens from time to time. Vinnie Vain, how are you, my brother?
Good, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, I am well. It's been a whole week, but, you know, we don't need to get into that. What we want to talk about is Vinnie Vain, the man, the myth, the legend.
Vinnie Vain, the man, the myth, the legend. I like that. Where'd you steal that from?
I'm not sure. Actually, who is the first person who's used that? It's so common.
I don't know. I've used it so many times in so many promos, man, but it fits so well. It's so good. How can you not use it?
It's an amazing line, and it's timeless. So yeah, the man, the myth, the legend, Vinnie Vain. I want to start at the beginning. Yeah, because I feel like not a lot of people know you, not a lot of people know your story, and that's what we want to change. So where did you get started in wrestling? How did this whole, it's a wacky world we're in, so how did you get involved?
Okay, the crazy world of wrestling. So like many others, I was a fan as I don't want to say child, I want to say like an early teenager. I was very much into wrestling. I used to go every Thursday and watch the Raw replay on Fox Sports with my grandfather. And it was the thing we did. Like, that was our little thing. And, you know, as you grow older, most guys, you know, tend to start chasing girls and do all that, which obviously I'm Vinnie Vain, man. I did that too. I had my fair share. But I was always a fan. It never fell off me. Wrestling was one of those things, was kind of like a rite of passage and a comforting thing for me. So I watched it for years, and I will be very honest, I finished high school. My goal was university.
Right.
University, then, I met a lovely girl, and, my goal was to marry that girl. And then once I had done all that and I achieved a degree and got married and I had a great career, which I worked in marketing full time, I wanted to pursue wrestling further. And I was tossing up between mixed martial arts because I have a very strong karate background. A lot of people don't know this, but I was actually an Australian champion in my teenage years. And I've been to Japan and fought for world titles over there. And the transition to MMA was the natural progression. And I did that for about a year, but I had a chance to start professional wrestling. Given that I started training with AWE, and they were the reason I started there was because they were right around the corner from where I was living, and it was, wow, it's a no-brainer.
Right.
You know, it's like literally walk out my house, 200 meters, and I'm there. And I started there, and I didn't take it seriously at first. I didn't see it as something I developed. I just wanted to go and try it. I just wanted to basically learn the tricks and the insights and understand how it all works, because obviously being interested in it, you want to learn what's behind the curtain. You want to see the realism to it. So I did that, and I fell in love with it from there. And it was just one of those things that was, became a hobby, and the training developed, and I got to the stage where I was allowed to do shows, and, it's taken off since there. It's been a whirlwind couple of years. I started training in March 2014, and we're going on 5 years now. So it's been a roller coaster ride, but something I'm very proud of, and something I'm very, proud to call a passion.
Yeah, absolutely. So you said you were like karate contending for world champions. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, man.
How was the transition, like coming from karate, where you're trying to kick people in the face, to professional wrestling?
It's a big transition in the fact that when you're doing a sport like karate, where your goal is to technically hurt the other person. I was a full body contact fighter, and my mindset was it's kill or be killed. Not not figuratively, but I want to go in there and inflict as much damage on this bloke and win the match. And when you're doing wrestling, it's a whole different discipline. You're opposite now. You're taking care of the person in the ring, if that makes any sense whatsoever. It's not I don't want to say it's an illusion, but safety first. That's the big difference. So everything you do, you're trying to protect yourself, and you're trying to protect your opponent. That was the biggest transition, and it's kind of like a beautiful contrast, so to speak. Right.
And with your training, so you mentioned you trained at AWE. Now, people who listen to the show probably know I'm not a huge AWE fan, and that's
that's fair.
Yeah, that's neither here nor there. There's obviously been some issues, but
of course.
How did you find training at AWE? How long did it take to get from first time stepping in the ring to actually having a match?
I am going to be the first to say I was probably brought in very prematurely. I was, I want to say it was about 9 months or so, but I was given very basic opportunities on shows. I wasn't having featured matches. We'll give you a match, but go in there very quick, very just what to give me that experience, which I think in some instances with some people, there's, not rules, but, certain protocols where they've got to be training this long and be at this sort of level, which is great. But at the same time, I think that gave me the experience to work in front of a live crowd. And mate, my first match was rubbish. Even I've seen it on the internet, and I'm like, oh God, please. It's like, when those memories come up on your Facebook profile and you're like, oh God, was I really like that 7 years ago?
Yeah.
That's what it's like for me. I don't want to see it. It was cringeworthy, but there was a lot of learnings to take from that. And then from that match, I was given a solid 5-month break. And then it was just work matches from there that were within my reach, within my capabilities. You don't have to go out there and put on a WrestleMania 5-star match. Know your place on the card, do what you know. And sometimes short, sweet, and simplistic gets the best reaction. And I think that's why the Vinnie Vain character was able to progress and develop and become a fan favorite in AWE, because I didn't work outside of AWE until last year.
Yeah.
So I was there purely for the first 3.5 to 4 years. That was because my choice. Like I said, I have a very full-on marketing career, which sends me around the world, and I didn't have the time.
Right.
And I was quite content in AWE. I had a goal, and only last year I decided I want to broaden my horizons, and there's so much amazing talent in this country, and to not get out there and wrestle in those feds and against those opponents, I felt that I was doing myself a disservice. So, I branched out and wanted to explore.
Yeah, for sure. We'll get to some of that soon. I want to just sort of have a look at one thing you said there. You travel around the world. You have quite a hectic schedule with your day-to-day career, right? Which is something that Australian wrestling fans need to understand is wrestling doesn't pay the bills here. Not yet. There are a lot of people working very hard to make sure that it hopefully it will at some point in the future. But at the moment, the reality is wrestling doesn't pay the bills, and you guys all need to hold down 9 to 5s, right? And you have a very hectic 9 to 5, and so you choose to not work too often. You're kind of the definition of a weekend warrior.
I don't disagree. My 9 to 5 is more like 8 to 8, let's be honest. But I'll be honest with you. Marketing is my passion. Wrestling is, sure, it's a passion, but it's secondary. Not that the dream is, obviously, I'd love to get signed by WWE or New Japan or Ring of Honor, but I'm a realist. Look, I went to university. I studied for 4.5 years to do what I do today. And I have no issues saying I'm very good at what I do for a living. I'm great at it. And my passion lies there. And that wrestling is also something I hold very close to my heart. But, like everybody else, I want the dream. I want, the good life. And this is what I have to do it. Wrestling isn't going to provide that for me. So I focus on my strengths. I am by no means, I will never go down as one of the greatest wrestlers, but I'm quite content with that. I'm okay. I'm good. People might, it's neither here nor there. Some might like me. Some might hate me. I really don't care. I go out there and I give 110% when I do this, and that's good enough for me. But until wrestling can pay the bills and, provide me the same bloody 6-figure income I'm on this day here, I've really got to put my attention where it's needed.
Right. So you grow accustomed to a certain lifestyle, of course. so you have
Absolutely.
to. Yeah.
Absolutely, man. Like I said, people want to invest their time into wrestling and make it a career. I am such an admirer. I admire that in those people, and I think that's great. And everyone has their path. The only difference is this is mine. But just because I don't necessarily have the same goals as many people in wrestling doesn't mean I'm any less deserving of opportunities or have the same desire or same will. Like everybody else, we just have different priorities. And I think where I might get offside with a lot of people is because I don't share those goals. He's he doesn't take it seriously. Not at all. I take it very seriously. I just have different priorities in life. And, I've only got 24 hours in a day, just like everybody else. And I'm making do with what I have.
Yeah, absolutely. No, look, I understand that completely. I actually trained for a while with Australian Pro Wrestling Gym. And,
awesome.
Yeah, and then we had kids, and I became a stay-at-home dad because my partner earns more. And
congratulations.
Yeah, it's the most rewarding job in the world. But it's one of those things where I've sort of I've been getting back into the wrestling community through the podcast and everything because I have time to dedicate at home where I can pause, go deal with the kids, do that sort of stuff. I have the time to dedicate, but the time to be in the gym, to do the reps in the ring and all that sort of stuff, I was like, it's not going to happen for me. But whereas where you are like, I'm happy doing that still, I pulled back and was like, if I'm not going to be the best, I don't want to do it. But you're saying that there's definitely room for both attitudes to exist. Because I've spoke before in the past about if you're not going out, if you're not trying to be the best, what are you doing, right? So it's good to have someone on who feels otherwise.
Well, to your point, I am going out there and still trying to be the best. But, with that said, I train as much as I can in the gym, to work on my body and my strength. And then I try to train as much wrestling as I can. But I'm working within the constraints of life. Like I said, my 9 to 5 is my main priority, but that doesn't mean I consider wrestling anything less. It just sits one lower. You know what I mean? Family, work, wrestling. That's the honest truth. But that doesn't mean when I go out there, I'm not I go out there and I try to put on the best match given my position on the card and what my job is on the night. I'll be very honest with you. A lot of people go out there and say, I want to be the star. I want to have the best match on the card. I don't take that mindset. I take the mindset that I'm given a certain place on the card and I have a certain job to do on the card. I will go out there and fill that role the best I can. And that's what I try and do. And look, I keep getting booked by a variety of great feds, so I'm clearly doing something right. Yeah,
well, wrestling's a team sport, right? I mean, not just when you're in the ring with your opponent who you are actually not opposing, you're working together to create this piece of work that will entertain people, but also in terms of everyone else who's on that card is building a wider narrative for the company, for the booker, for whoever's calling the shots. You're building that narrative to get the crowd invested to come back another time. It's a team thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, that's what makes it so beautiful because these team things, these feds that we work for, those people in the locker room from, owner, booker, promoter to, curtain jerker, ring crew, whatever, we're all a big family. That's the honest truth. Some people you might not like so much, but we're all there with the same goal. mutual respect goes a long way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's and in wrestling as well, you've got, you know, there are people that will be those 5-star match guys, and there are people who will be character workers, right? And I from what I've seen of you, and I have to admit, like, AWE especially it's not necessarily the most accessible product, so I haven't seen a huge amount, but from what I have seen of you, you're far more of a character worker in the vein of, like, The Miz, or The Miz is the biggest one that always comes to mind. In the vein of that kind of character, than you are one of those, you know, go out there and you know, Dolph Ziggler steal the show kind of guys.
Yep, that's a fair point. Look, I can have a great match. If you need me to work, I can work. But do I like my character and try and work my character as much as I can? Absolutely. You know, I was always told, not just training with AWE, but training around with different, you know, guest trainers. Like, you know, we've trained with Chavo Guerrero before, and Bob Holly, and all these different people. And one thing they keep saying, less is more. You know, if you can get over doing your character, don't take an unnecessary bump if you don't have to. So if I can go out there and entertain the crowd, because at the end of the day, that's what people forget. It's entertainment. Okay, we're here to entertain. If that means I have to work the gimmick and, you know, play the pretty boy and, you know, get the soccer moms all happy to go over, that's what I'm going to do. You know, like I said, I'm very adamant on doing the job that I am given. And when I say job, I mean, if the task for me is to go out there mid-card and, you know, be a filler, and, like, not necessarily, you know, it's not my job to steal the show. That's the main event's job. That's what they're in that position for. I will go out there and play my part. And I think that is something that I pride myself on, because that's what I believe separates me a lot from the competition, where, when I say the competition, I mean, like, other people, you know, other workers and whatnot, because their goal is to go out there and steal the show. And yeah, that's great. I love the mentality. I love the enthusiasm. But if you do that, you kind of mess up everything else that goes after you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's in the name, right? Steal the show.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And, like, I just, you know, if one thing I want to, you know, if any type of legacy I leave when I'm hanging my boots up is that, you know, he was a great guy. He was a great worker, you know, in all senses of the word, but he, like, you know, he was a gentleman. You know, I didn't overstep my boundaries. I played my part and played it well. That's what I'd like to leave on this sport. Yeah,
absolutely. And there was you've had the biggest match you've had, right? AWE Menai Mania. Was it Menai Mania 7? Charlie Haas.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Charlie Haas. Yeah, man, massive match.
Yeah,
massive.
How did that come about? And you know, tell us about working Charlie Haas. That sounds crazy.
Look, I think Charlie Haas for me was like the natural progression in AWE, given that I had won the championship the end of 2017, and then I had lost it for a period of 2 weeks to a great rival in Mr. Exclusive, who is probably one of the most underrated workers this country has probably seen. And then I had won it, I had lost it, and, you know, Charlie Haas was the next natural progression for me as a performer and for the fans, because I had worked pretty much everyone there. So what more was there for me to do? And they gave me the challenge, and it was, you know what, it was the hardest match of my life. You know, it's a different level. You know, a lot of people, you know, think they're good, and that's well and good, but working with a guy like this who has so much experience, and his, you know, tenacity and his toughness is on a next level. But, like, I learned so much in that match. Like, man, he kicked my ass for a solid 20 minutes, but when I tell you he made me work for everything. Right. I did not stop that entire match, from working the crowd to, you know, putting on the moves and progressing in the story we were telling in that match. Like, I went backstage and I was like, man, I was tired. Like, I ain't tired after a match, you know, like, I don't even break a sweat sometimes, but this one, like, I felt like I earned my pay that day, so to speak. Just little things I even noticed with him, like, you know, we all make mistakes in the ring. Some little mistakes I made in that match that he was able to cover up, and it was just like the mark of a pro that, you know, you wouldn't get with any other performer who hadn't been to the heights Charlie had been and worked the competition he had worked. Like, it was an amazing experience, and the one thing I walked away from it is I knew how much more I had to work and how much more I need to improve. And I'm not ashamed to say that. You know, it was by no means, you know, a 5-star match, but I can tell you that everyone that paid their money that night walked, like, they left that venue happy, and they were very, very happy with the match that they saw, because they knew both guys gave it their all, and it was an entertaining match. And it is something I'm quite proud of. You know, not a lot of people come into this business in this country and they work some matches. Not everyone is fortunate enough to work an international, let alone an international of Charlie Haas's caliber. So that is something I'll forever be proud of.
For sure. I mean, it's one of those things too. I mean, you touched on it there, making you want to get better, making you want to step up your game. You hear that a lot from guys that have gotten in the ring with, international talent that come visit the country, and just how much it makes you realize, like, how much more there is that you can do, how much more there is that you can learn. Because wrestling's kind of you never stop learning kind of thing. And it's nice to hear that, man. It's nice to hear that. But I think the thing with AWE as well is, and this isn't to like, aside from the other things, one of the things that I look at when I see is internationals coming in. Sometimes it looks like they're just coming in, picking up wins and moving on. Does it feel different being a performer in the locker room does it feel different, or does it feel like that sometimes?
Look, I've never been one to worry about wins and losses. I don't personally, it doesn't bother me. I win, I lose, I lose. As long as I went out there, like, the funny thing is, right, and I challenge you to this. I could ask you about any main event match at WrestleMania potentially, and I could say, hey, who won? The chances of you remembering are probably slim. You might remember if it was really standout, but you remember how the match made you feel and how good the match was, but you don't always necessarily remember who won unless it's like a really big moment. Does that make sense? So
right.
For me, it doesn't necessarily matter who wins, but yes, do I think sometimes that internationals come in, not just to AWE, but a variety of feds, and they put these international talent over. But the thing that is kind of a downfall is I've got to back up the next show. Yeah. This guy doesn't. So how does this help my credibility as a character if they come in and beat me? Like, from a worker's perspective, I don't care. You beat me, you beat me. I like, either way, I did my job. I get paid the same. It makes no difference. But from the fans' perspective, how are you supposed to take me seriously if the international comes in for one show, beats me, then leaves? But I'm not the booker. I'm not the promoter. Yeah. I don't know the grand plan. So I can't complain. But I do see why some people think that way, and I can tend to agree in some instances. But it all depends on what the greater plan is with that promotion and with that character and with that fed. Yeah. So if you have a good promoter that has an idea of where this story is heading with you, like that loss, hypothetically was critical to your development path for the next 12 months, then fine, it makes sense. But I do think if you're just bringing the international in and putting them over to send the crowd home happy, is it the best booking decision? I don't know. But then again, it's not my money on the table bringing this guy in, so who am I to speak? Right,
yeah. No, absolutely. I understand that. I just, as a fan, sometimes I look at it and I scratch my head. Like, if it's in service of a story, right? Like, in PWA, you had, Will Ospreay went over and got some wins, but then when he came back, he eventually put over Robbie Eagles. He eventually put over, you know what I mean? Like, it's, and it sort of, it paid off as a long-term story, this year in the making of Robbie Eagles losing and having the ghost of Will Ospreay on his back kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And when it serves a story like that, it's fucking brilliant. But I feel like sometimes, with specifically some of the smaller feds, like you can go out to shows and sometimes you can feel it from the fans. Like, they don't take our guys seriously, even though a lot of our guys should be taken far more seriously than they are.
Agreed. And it only takes one booking to buck the trend, because I think a lot of the fans go in with this mindset. But even at certain of like super shows, like whether it be like House of Hardcore or International Assault, I think the fans already come in knowing that the international is going to win. And I think the moment someone has the balls, dare I say, to like buck the trend, the fans will be like, oh my God, I never expected that. It's like the Undertaker-Lesnar thing. When the Undertaker lost, no one saw it coming. So the shock value was amazing. So it makes you want to watch what happens next, whether it's on Raw or a pay-per-view. You'll pay the money because, wow, I didn't see that coming. This is new.
Right.
So I
it
think
makes it a bigger deal.
100%. And that opens up for so much more creativity in like booking and storylines. So, I challenge promoters to, buck the trend and, like the crowd they go home happy, they go home sad. I don't think any fan's going to go home and say, the international lost, I'm never coming back to this show. That's never going to happen. Like, that's never going to happen. If the 2 guys or 3 guys or however many guys in that ring did their job and did it well and put on a great match, the fans will come back because they got their money's worth and they got entertained. That's what matters at the end of the day. Like I keep saying, it's entertainment. And I think If you entertain the fans and you put on a good show, they'll pay the money and they will come back and see your product again and again and again.
For sure. Now, before that match, before the Charlie Haas match, you did cut a promo, which, I mean, I guess, brilliant marketing on the Facebook and stuff. It was labeled as a shoot promo. And you sort of went off the cuff about, and talking about a lot of things you're talking about here. So I guess it was kind of a shoot promo in a lot of ways.
I get pulled up on that a lot. I annoyed some people, and I had a lot of people that said, "Hey man, well done." If you want the honest truth, my wife was there that night, and when I saw her after the show, she said, like, that was you. Like, that wasn't Vinnie Vain. Like, that was you, just the real you turned up, you know, times 10. And I'll be honest with you, everything I said in that was true. I didn't hold back. I was given the microphone. I was given the opportunity to go out there and say how I feel about a few things. And you know what? I took the bull by the horns, and I make no apologies to whoever I offended. That's me talking from the heart, and that's the way it is. Like I said, like, we went through my career and, how, it's not that wrestling's not a priority. Look, maybe I embellished a little bit. Wrestling is important to me, but I put things in a perspective.
Well, having it as a number 3 priority, that's still huge. Like, there are so many people out there whose priority is, I think for most people, family tends to be first, but family, career, and then watching Married at First Sight. It comes in at number 3,
But look, wrestling, the reason I say it's important to me is because it impacts a lot of other areas of my life. Like, I'll be honest with you, I don't like the gym. I don't like training. No one wants to tell me I'd rather go lift weights than eat donuts, man. Yeah. But because I wrestle, I make a conscious effort to go to the gym and stay healthy and stay fit. So because of wrestling, it helps me in other areas of my life.
For sure.
Some people get, like, I have a stressful, like, life and job, just like everybody else who's probably listening to this. Some people might, have a drink. Some people might smoke. Some people might gamble. I like to wrestle. So for me, it's my escape. It's my, valve switch that relieves the pressure. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like I said, we already touched on a few of things, like wrestling not being your primary business and all of that. But one of the things that you said in the shoot promo that I wanted to ask you about, one line in particular, was that if you were putting in the work that some of these other guys are putting in, like the dedication where you were like, no, wrestling's going to be my number 1, you said you'd already be in WWE.
Yeah.
What makes the difference?
Look, like anything, right? To succeed in anything at life, it takes repetition and it takes a long-term commitment. Every day you've got to be on that grind. I really believe, look, I started very late in wrestling. I started at 25, which is very late for some. And I think it's late. I think with anything, the earlier you do anything in life, the better you're going to be at it. I truly believe in my heart that if, like a lot of these kids today, they're getting out of high school or whatever, or they're studying uni, but they're wrestling in between. My goal was uni and work to generate an income while I was studying. Yeah. If I had made, and not just I wanted to thrive. I wanted to buy a house and do all those. Look, I'm from a WWOW family. So for me, it's like, you got to go to uni, you got to do well, you got to buy a house. And I'm not ashamed of that. That's my upbringing. So that was my goal. But if I had started at a younger age and I put in the dedication and the endless hours, I know me, I know the person I am. I know that anything I put my mind to, I succeed. That's what I do. That's what I always do. And I really believe in my heart, if I had started at a younger age and given this everything, I really do believe I would have potentially, made it bigger and better. And I don't have a problem in saying that. Some people might say it's arrogance, but everyone, look, I'm a realist. I know my strengths. I know my weaknesses. I know what my mind is like. And I believe in myself and I back myself every damn day of the week. So that's just how it is.
Right. And you have been in 2018 and moving into 2019, backing yourself more and more, even with the wrestling, right? So you've been branching out to other promotions.
Yeah. So cut a long story short, I recently had a beautiful baby girl, and
congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you. She looks just like me. It's amazing. I knew that I wanted to start a family, and I knew that once that came along, my time for wrestling wouldn't be as much as I'd be able to give, back in 2018. So I made a conscious decision to expand my horizons. Like I said, I only worked with AWE prior to that because it fit in very well with my lifestyle at the time. But I couldn't handle looking back on a career where I just worked one place. Like, it's one thing to be a big fish in a small pond, but I'd like the challenge. And I wanted to go out there and prove to a lot of people, including myself, that I was good enough to be on other shows and compete with the best. So I challenged myself to get out there and, you know, have a go and work for other feds. And I did. I branched out to Go and Hunter Valley and AWF, FWA, 1-4, BCW I got to work with as well. You know, and I got to expand my brand. And it was one of the best things I ever did. I was able to work with a great deal of amazing promoters and some even better workers. And to be on the card with some of these people like that I've been able to work with, it's an honor and it's a pleasure, and I'm humbled by it.
So you worked like the Lucha Underground tour, right? And the ECW tour.
Yeah, I did. That was something really cool, and I was really happy with that. As you know, I think the BCW tour came around through a partnership with AWE, and the first show was, I think it was more of a trial, and the second show, they approached me direct to come back, and it was an amazing, probably one of the best cards I ever worked on. To work on a card with guys that I grew up watching, it's very surreal. Like, I mean, I walked to the back and I put my bag between RVD and Sabu, and I'm looking around and I'm like, is this really happening? Like 10 years ago, I was, watching these guys, perform, when they were doing the ECW, WWE angle, and it was like, I'm actually sitting between them right now, talking to them,
right,
not as a fan, but as an equal, like as another performer on the show. And it's just little things like that are great little milestones and great little, accomplishments that you can tick off. Because I don't care what anybody says, I wouldn't be on that show if I wasn't good enough. So it felt good. And for me, it was an achievement and something I'm quite proud of.
Right. Yeah, and so looking forward to you've had some time off, right? Again, the baby.
Yeah,
congratulations.
Thank you. 3 months.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it's good to see Dad's taken time as well. I'm a big fan of that, so big supporter of that. But you're coming back and you're making your big return at the Hunter Valley Wrestling shows with James Storm.
Yeah, I am. That is it's going to be an amazing weekend up there. Hunter Valley have pulled out all the stops. They have not only got James Storm, but they've got some of the best guys in the country. They've got Slade, they've got Damian Slater. I'm trying to ramble off the names.
Gavin McGavin.
Gavin McGavin. Yep, Alex Titan, who is, he's an amazing worker. He's done some great things. And I'll be up there for the 23rd and 24th. And I'm, really excited to announce that, or, to say that I'll be competing for their new Elite Championship on the Sunday show in a 6-man TLC match, which I think is going to be, brutal. But the guys in there are amazing competitors. It's called the Elite title. And like I said, they're great, but I'm elite. So I plan to walk in there. I plan to kick butt, and I plan to leave with that championship because I think it's going to look absolutely amazing on my shoulder.
Yeah, there were a couple of names in that match that I was very excited to see. Keegan, who I trained with, and J.L. Gold, who is one of the most underrated guys in the country. Because, similar to how you have the sort of AWE curse around you, right? People associate you with that brand. J.L. Gold, he's got the Queensland curse, which is an even bigger curse. People are like, oh, Queensland. Like, no one cares about Queensland wrestling, even though there's a lot of people working hard to rehabilitate it. And so there's some guys in that match. I'm looking forward to that one for sure.
I have been very blessed, and I'm going to say the word blessed, to get the opportunity to share the ring with guys like Keegan and JL Gold, Sonic, Backman, Misfit. These are guys that I really believe in my heart. I really like. Even Keegan, for example, the guy has dedicated his life. He's traveled overseas. He's put in the hard yards. And to work a match with him in this regard is something that I'm very, proud of, and it's an honor. And I think these guys that are in this match, they're really the guys that are going unsung in the Australian indie scene, especially in New South Wales. They're great talents, but they just don't get that chance to really show how good they are. And I think that's what I commend the Hunter Valley for, because they're giving us the opportunity to do that. It's a mid-card title, but it's fantastic that they're taking the initiative to really showcase that, hey, yes, we have the main eventers, but our mid-card is also just as strong and just as good. And these guys need to, have the respect and attention of the fans. And I think that is really, really something special. I think that's going to be a real solid competitive advantage for Hunter Valley in the next 12 months.
Yeah, that's something I've noticed about their cards lately, the last couple of cards, and moving forward to this big show, the big weekend that they're doing, is that, Yeah, so obviously you're bringing in an international like James Storm, who is someone who is still at this point relevant enough to get not just people who have like been like, oh yeah, I watched the wrestling that's on Fox 8. Oh yeah, I remember that guy from TNA, you know, but also to get actual like hardcore wrestling fans like me. Like I'll fly to Sydney to see, or Newcastle to see James Storm, you know, if I've got the funds in the account. So it's going to bring those people in, but then you've got the best in Australia there as well to capture the people. And then you've also got, but look, that's not all. These are some of the guys that are completely underrated and flying under the radar. And I'm looking at the cards. I'm just like, that's phenomenal. Like it's a can't miss card. So it's very exciting that you're a part of that.
I'm very honored, and I'm very, very humbled that Hunter Valley would give me the opportunity. So, it's like you said, it's an amazing, amazing show. Like to have the caliber of talent that they've lined up, it's clap, clap, clap. And I really do hope the fans, you know, take the initiative to come up and see the show, or town, wherever you live, make the effort, because if we don't have the fan support, like feds can't continue pouring in money to put on these shows if we're not getting the support. So I really encourage the fans to make an effort, because I know for a fact every guy and girl in that locker room is going to bust their ass like both days. So it's worth your while, and it's in your best interest to come and support everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I wanted to touch on something else, because 2018 was a big year for you, not just from branching out, but also from your media coverage, man.
Man.
You were in Crash was the one that surprised me most. Like it's like one of them kids magazines that you get at Woolworths in the kids aisle. But
Hey, you can call it a kids magazine, but I was on the cover of a magazine that was in every supermarket, every news
everywhere,
agency, every servo across the country.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I'm not trying to downplay it at all. I think like
no,
kids.
Just being a smart ass, man.
No, the market for wrestling with kids is one of the most untapped markets in this country. I'm just putting that out there.
Absolutely.
I look at wrestling and I'm like, I want a wrestling show I can take my 4-year-old to, you know. But anyway, Daily Telegraph covered you, Maxim.
Yep.
Like
Maxim.
How did this all come about?
I think that might have pissed off a few of their subscribers. But hey, man, we buy Maxim for the girls, and I got a 3-page spread of a half-naked guy in there. What the hell is going on? Look, like I said, obviously I work in marketing. You market yourself, and you put yourself in a position where you have an interesting story and you have something to say. And you know, I've been fortunate enough to be given these opportunities, and I've taken them with both hands. And I'm really humbled by it, and really honored that I would be featured in such things. But it's just a matter of doing the work and putting yourself out there. Like, you know, you touched on before, and you said, oh, you know, you don't put in the effort that others might not put in. Maybe not in ring, like in the training regards, but I really believe there's more to wrestling. And I said this in that promo you were referring to. Yeah. There's more to wrestling than like flips and kicks and all this stuff. Like wrestling is one aspect. Your character, your media work, your social presence, it all adds up to an overall persona and like your stock price, so to speak. And I think if anything, you know, where I lack in some areas as a performer, I make up greatly in others. Because at the end of the day, you gotta understand something. This is a business. Promoters are in this business to make money. We are a tool they use to make money. Therefore, if I'm not pulling my weight from a media standpoint and I'm not getting as many eyeballs on the product as I can, am I really justifiable to have as a performer, you know, on a payroll, so to speak? So, you know, but also that stuff helps with my own personal brand. I've generated so many new fans and followers through those media opportunities. So, you know, in essence, yes, I've helped myself. Yes, I've helped build my brand, but I've also helped build the brand of every Fed I've worked for. So, you know, I encourage my other performers to really put yourself out there. The worst thing that's going to happen is you get rejected. And you want to know the honest truth, Greg? To get those publications, imagine how many more rejections I got to only get that little.
Yeah. No, look, I mean, for me, doing this podcast, right, starting out, messaging people that I've never met, being like, hey, can we do an interview? I want to start a podcast. You know, reaching out to advertisers, all this stuff. It can be, I can understand why people maybe don't want to do that aspect and are just like, no, I'll just be the best at this one thing and then eyes will come. And that's one way to do it. It's definitely one way to do it. But like you said in the promo, right, it's about putting butts in seats. And so the more different avenues you're giving yourself to do that, the better.
That's right. And like you were saying about making a living from it, if anyone's going to have the potential to make a living from it here in Australia, you need to go beyond putting on the good matches, because you can put on a great match, but if you're performing to the same 200 people every show, how's wrestling going to grow?
Yeah.
And like, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I'm the only one trying to make it grow. Everyone's trying to make it grow. Everyone's trying to do the hard yards. Like, you only have to look as far as MCW or EPW or PWA, and they're all pulling, you know, as much as they can to get media. And it's great because it's bringing more exposure to wrestling, but also to the individuals involved. And if we don't keep pushing as hard as we can, you can be a great wrestler as much as you want. But like, you know, the saying goes like, LeBron James, he can play, you know, basketball in Spain, but no one wants to see, like, you know, eat paella and see him play basketball. You know what I mean? Like, it's got to fit. So the more eyes we get on the product, the more we can increase fan attendance, and the more we can, you know, make money off this potentially. Yeah. Like, that's the end goal for most people. So you have to do the work.
Absolutely. Do the work is, I love that phrase. You just do the work. That's what you got to do. But I mean, I look whenever I see that wrestling's about to be covered on something mainstream, especially the like different things. There's different avenues I fear more than others, but like the project put a laugh track over some EPW footage once, which really pissed me off. But like, I worry sometimes with coverage in mainstream media, but I've noticed lately it's sort of starting to turn and become a bit more respectful.
Look, it can, but it all depends. All, like, you know, they say it's all in the perception of the viewer, because you might read something and, like you said, oh, it's a joke, but someone might look at that and say, look at those guys, you know, working hard, you know, trying to chase their dream. I'll give them a follow. Even if it's a matter of someone sees something and then they look up that wrestler on Instagram or Facebook and give them a follow, that wrestler has now had the opportunity to expand their reach and expand their market. And that's all you could ask for. So it's really important that, you know, like, okay, sure, no one wants to be made a fool of, or, you know, no one wants to be the first, no one wants to be the last. But, you know, like I say, I encourage everybody to, you know, get some courage, get some balls, so to speak, and put yourself out there. You know, like, we're all here to support each other. Like, look, the saddest thing with me, and I'll be very honest with you, is, you know, take the Maxim interview, for example. Another wrestler, a mate of mine, you know, sent me something from one of those group chats, you know, group Facebook pages that, you know, rip on everyone. And, you know, someone wrote something like, apparently, oh, he, you know, sounds like a backyard interview, you know, typical. And it's like, bro, I got in Maxim magazine, a national publication. Like, the fans, like, you're going to rip on me? Like, really? Like, instead of saying, hey, well done, great way to bring attention to the sport, you know, which only helps put on a better product for the fans. You want to rip on me? That's fine. So even to the fans, I say, like, without being rude, don't be such an ass. Like, support the guys that are putting in the effort. You might not like my work, you might not like me. That's fine. I still sleep at night. But if I do something good, not just me, but people in general, if we're putting in the effort and we're putting ourselves out there to get more attention on us, man, support each other. Like, you know, just, you don't have to like each other. You don't even have to like the damn post, but don't go out of your way to, you know, rubbish it either. Yeah,
absolutely. You know, that's what we're all about here at the B Plus is building it up. And like, I respect the hustle, man. Like, that's the biggest thing that made me say, I'm going to talk to Vinnie Vain, I'll be honest with you, it wasn't the in-ring work, right? It's the hustle.
I appreciate it.
The overall hustle. Like, it's an important thing. And I think that the attitude that you have towards it is a brilliant thing. And we definitely need more of it, because it will help to take it to that next level. And I hope that it helps to take you to the next level throughout 2019. In that regards, like, we talked about branching out with bookings and what have you. Have you thought about branching out with training, like perhaps training at one of the more, more well-renowned schools?
Absolutely. Look, I have, and like, I've been, you know, offered and invited a lot of times to a lot of the more reputable schools in Sydney. And, you know, it's just a matter of timing. I am, you know, training when I can, with a, you know, variety of different ways, which I'd like rather not get into, but, you know, I do have the options there, and I am considering them. And I'll be honest with you, I'm just I don't want to start and then not commit because, you know, I got to do a last minute project, or a client briefed in this and I've got to get it done. I'd like to get myself, which I'm working literally as we speak, I'm working on a more succinct training regime. So it's like, okay, I know that these days I've got to be there at this time, and I can plan backwards. And I am considering it. I'm definitely considering a variety of different options that have been put in front of me because I love wrestling. I love being in the ring and I love learning. Like for me, like you said, you can never stop learning in this business. And that's the beauty of it. There's always a new way to evolve and change and adapt. And I do need that in my life. And I am looking at a variety of different places to train this year. Absolutely.
Awesome. That's awesome, man. That's what I want to hear. I love the attitude. I love it. Where can people check you out if they want to follow Vinnie Vain on the social media? Okay,
you can follow me on Instagram at Vinnie_Vain or on Facebook /Vinnie Vain Wrestler. Not hard to miss, mate. I do have the Twitter, but I'm not a big fan of Twitter, to be honest with you. So Instagram, Facebook, or you can check out my website. It's bit.ly/Vinnie Vain. It's still under construction, but go onto my social channels and you'll be able to link through to my website and you can check out my bio, some featured matches, my record, and we're building in my merchandise shop soon, so that's awesome. So it's all happening over here, mate. It's definitely all happening.
Your website is amazing. Like as an interviewer, yeah. as a person who wants to interview you, or even I've toyed with the idea a few times of recording, some test commentary tracks over matches that don't have commentary and sending it out just to see like, what do you think? Could give me some feedback, stuff like that. And I can go to your website and I honestly feel like I could comfortably commentate over a Vinnie Vain match because you've got your height, you've got your background, you've got everything there that someone would need. Like it's an amazing website and I think that more people should be doing it. So any workers listening to this, check out Vinnie Vain's website, dude, because it's a brilliant piece of well, I mean, you're a marketer, right? So of course it's going to be.
So if it wasn't good, you'd be like, what the hell? I wouldn't be doing myself justice. So, but I'm making a few tweaks, a few changes, but that's my socials, and I can tell you my next upcoming appearances if you want to know.
Yes, please, hit them.
I'm obviously doing Hunter Valley, March 23rd, March 24th, and then I have signed on to do the BCW Lucha Down Underground 2 show, which is going to be on April 28th at the Italian Forum in Leichhardt. There's a theater in that precinct, and it's going to be in there, man, and that card's going to be epic. It's got Chavo Guerrero, PJ Black, Katrina, Mil Muertes, a few other guys, Drago Aerostar, and I'm so glad I get to go back to BCW. And every time I've been to BCW, I've kind of been winless, and I'm saying I don't care about wins and losses, but I'd like to at least get a win there. So
get a win on the board.
I can't tell you who I'm wrestling yet. That's all under wraps at the moment, but I can tell you I will be there, and I'm really excited. And then just stay tuned to my Facebook page and my Instagram page because I've got a lot of good things in the pipeline throughout the rest of this year. My tag partner Lucius Wolf and I, Rock and Roller Baby, we're pushing hard, and we're gonna definitely win some gold this year. It's just a matter of where. So keep an eye out, and please. I'd like to thank everyone that supported me along the journey so far. I am forever in your debt. And for those that even criticize me, thank you, because you are the fuel that keeps me motivated to keep going and prove you bastards wrong. So keep it coming. So to both of you, thank you very much. I love it. And to you, Greg, thank you very much, man. You put on an amazing podcast, and I'm really grateful to you for giving people like me the chance to voice my side of things. And you're giving us the platform to branch out. So thank you, man, and kudos to you for your work.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. And thank you so much for stopping by.
No worries. Thank you. Take care.
So there you have it. Vinnie Vain coming to Hunter Valley Wrestling, coming to a show near you. Check him out. Check him out on all the social medias that you can find him. And if you liked that interview and you like interviews with Aussie Grapplers or Grappler adjacent people, make sure you check out Wrestle Radio Australia and Wide World of Wrestling this week, both of which had Gino Gambino on the show. Of course, Gino Gambino was on The Turnbuckle last week. It's a month of Gino Gambino shows. I'm feeling left out, Gino. I'm feeling left out. No, I should have reached out to Gino for a podcast, to be honest with you, and I haven't, because he intimidates me. Like I said, I'm happy to be worked. I'm a fan first, and I get worked all the time. And Gino Gambino, he intimidates me. He is a big, scary man. And listening to the interviews, he's obviously a big old teddy bear, and I'm being silly, but it's still terrifying to me to shoot a message to anyone. Really, I struggle messaging anyone for interviews on the podcast because I'm a socially awkward and anxious person myself. Which means maybe Gino's probably one of the best guys to reach out and talk to. But I'm gonna have to get Gino on the show. But this week he was on Wide World of Wrestling, and on Wrestle Radio Australia. The Wide World of Wrestling one was a little different because it also had his manager Sebastian Walker, so it was very Melbourne City Wrestling kayfabe themed kind of thing. Definitely check that one out. We also this week have Avary on The Turnbuckle. Avary, of course, one of the great... We raved about Avary for many, many minutes on our Top 5 Women We've Seen Live podcast, which I think is up for free now. It was definitely up for free on Patreon sometime last week. If it's not up for free yet, it'll be up for free soon and you'll be able to hear it. It's called Top 5 Women We've Seen Live. It's a Patreon exclusive. We do custom episodes for our Patreon backers. So if you want to give us a similar sort of theme and we can do custom episodes for you too, just head to patreon.com/theb+, and you get to hear those sorts of episodes a week before everyone else as well, which is really cool. But yeah, Avary was on The Turnbuckle this week. JXT, Talkin Stick, had a solo episode last week. Really fun Ask JXT stuff. I haven't seen who he's got on this week yet. It has not popped up in the timeline. But you know, the JXT Talkin Stick podcast may have weeks on and off here and there, may have solo weeks because he is of course heading to America, and it's not always going to be the easiest thing for him to get guests. So if you are an American wrestler that's working a show with JXT, be friendly, pop up, say hi, say, hey man, let's do a podcast, let's do it. But that's all that I have in the way of Australian wrestler interviews this week. Now let's take a look at the shows that are happening this weekend on New South Wales. Friday night, Newcastle Pro Wrestling. They're holding one of their Hoose Party shows at the House of Free Fighting. The Hoosers by Daryl Braithwaite. You see what they did. They like to do these punny shows with horses, hooses, houses, etc. Steph DeLander will be taking on Dirty Dog Davidson. That's Concrete Davidson's evil twin, I believe. Jessica Troy returns to the Hoose. Matty Wahlberg defends his middleweight title against Tree Hugger Lucci and Tanner Moe, and much, much more. Tickets are just $10 for that one. On Friday night, up in Queensland, UPW Redemption takes place at the Shed at Aussie World. 13 takes on the Stockman. Ricky Rembrandt and EC Diamond go one-on-one. The arrival of Cluck, who appears to be some kind of wrestling chicken. I love it. I love that wacky stuff. Much, much more on this show as well. Tickets start at $15. Then on Saturday night, New Valhalla Wrestling return to Mount Gravett Showgrounds for Freya's Gift. Dallas Summers takes on Rip Riley over the vacant heavyweight title. House of Frost and Cloud Control are in tag team action. Suit Up Society take on J2. Adonis goes one-on-one with Charlie D. Jason Hyde and JL Gold face off. And Dragon and the Blair Seeker Project go one-on-one. Much, much more on that show as well. Tickets start at just $10. In Victoria on Saturday, Gold Class Wrestling present Battle Cry at Geelong West Town Hall in Geelong. Izzy Shaw goes one-on-one with Bianca. Jet Ruka, Tyson Baxter, Zane Zodiac, Kaz Jordan, and Sketch face off in a championship contract scramble match. Richie Taylor goes one-on-one with Darcy Moss. That'll be a banger. And Raw Beef challenge for the Band of Brothers tag team titles in a last team standing match. Tickets start at $25. On Sunday, Underworld Wrestling host Glory to the Claw. This looks like their biggest show, featuring a live reanimation. You heard it right. They're going to bring a human back to life at the HQ, the Claw HQ in Melbourne. This is a big one. The Eliminator Survival Tournament takes place with four-way eliminators, all leading into a fifth four-way eliminator where the winners of the first four-way eliminators will face off. JXT, Mad Dog, Richie Taylor, a mystery international guest. I'm guessing it's DCT. That's what I'm putting in there. Andy Roy, Mitch Waterman, Paddy O'Neill, Slickback Cash, Carlo Cannon, Australian Wolf, Sam Cannon, Luciano, Sagat Parajan Wen, Simon Oath, and Gore will enter, but only one man will become the number one contender in the end. Tar Lee, Avary, and Izzy Shaw will face off in a three-way eliminator to crown a number one contender for the Women's Underworld Championship, and Vixen will name her opponent to challenge for her title as per the bylaws in the Underworld rulebook. And in the main event, Pitbull will defend the Underworld Championship against the Claw's own Slade Mercer. Tickets for this one are $30. Over in Western Australia, in Perth on Saturday night, Slaughterhouse 31 takes place at the NHPW Slaughterhouse. See the future of Perth wrestling as the students from the Slaughterhouse put on their best efforts, and tickets are only $5. Also on Saturday night in Perth, Schwa return to the Don Russell Theatre for high stakes. Gorgeous Gary takes on The Gift. Jay Taylor, Cheetor, Pegasus, and Delcano clash over the Schwa Pride Championship. Ryan Allen, Warship, and the Great George take on the Pulse, and if the Pulse lose, they must disband. If Team Warship lose, Warship will leave Schwa. And of course, the Schwa heavyweight title is on the line when Craven defends against Jeremiah Kingsley. Tickets start at $12.50. And that's what's happening this weekend in Australian professional wrestling. Make sure you get out and support local wrestling. Of course, World Series Wrestling is taking place this weekend. I almost forgot about it. I'm trying to wrap up the show so that I can go to World Series Wrestling. My train comes in like 30 minutes. World Series Wrestling is taking place this weekend, of course, Thursday in Adelaide, Friday, as you listen to this, Friday in Melbourne, Saturday in Melbourne, Sunday in Sydney, Monday in Sydney, Hurstville, Penrith. It's all Sydney to me now because I don't live there anymore. But you can listen to the full breakdown of the cards. You got amazing names. Robbie Eagles, of course, the World Series Wrestling Champion. They're crowning a women's champion for the first time. They've got their tag titles are being defended by Villain Enterprises. You got SCU in town. I think Cody's going to show up. Gino Gambino's on the tour. Everyone's on this tour. It's a huge, huge tour. It's the most stacked Australian wrestling tour I've ever seen in my life. So I'm very excited for this one. Make sure you get around it. We did a preview episode. If you want to listen, me and Mikey broke down the cards for each of the nights that have been announced so far. So head back in the archives. It's only one day back and you'll be able to listen to that episode to get yourself hyped for World Series Wrestling. We'll come at you on Tuesday with a Stay Hyped episode where we talk about everything that happened with people who were at the shows. If you are going to one of the shows and you want to hit us up and let us know, what went down, what you thought, please do. I would love to hear from you and we'll read your comments on the episode. You can do that through the Australian Wrestling Community group on Facebook. You can do it through our Discord if you're a Patreon subscriber at patreon.com/theb+. You can send it to us on Twitter, Facebook, email us theb+@unchained.media. There's a lot of ways to get in touch with us. Head to the Facebook. It's the easiest way, but any of those ways can get in touch with us and let us know what you thought of World Series Wrestling. I am at Greg Unchained on Twitter, at the Greg Unchained on Instagram. We collectively are the B+ Wrestler on Twitter because wrestling wouldn't fit the B+ Wrestling everywhere else. Like, share, subscribe, 5-star review if you like what we do. And thank you so much for listening.
Hold one! Arm drag! You're not good at this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon. You just made the list! Oh my God!
So, now speak English.
Dummy! Goodbye and good night. Hold two! Arm bar!
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
It's still real to me, damn it!
Dummy! Hold three! The moss covered!